Well, while we're waiting on Facebook to build our audience, please do like, follow, and share. Also, I would encourage you to like and share Shamisha Adams. She's our guest and my co-host tonight, my co-pilot. And she is Shamisha Adams, and she's Shamisha Adams on Facebook. She's also on IG as well. So while Facebook is building our audience, we're going to go ahead and just jump into the bank does not want your house back. Why did you say that we should do this together, Shamisha?
I feel like it's a good idea for the communities, uh, our local communities in the area.
And what are you seeing in the market? What's going on with people as far as foreclosure?
I'm seeing hardship in some areas, and I feel like we could be an asset to some people.
Okay. So, we're going to talk about tonight um the different alternatives of what you should be asking your mortgage company, because a lot of people got behind on their mortgage during COVID and they just have not been able to recover from that, or they've had hardships since COVID and they have not been able to recover from that as well. So now these banks, because they declared that the pandemic is over, and these people that were not making mortgage payments, the banks are kind of coming in now and telling them, pay up, we need our money. And it's not a little bit of money that some of these banks are needing. They're needing thousands and thousands of dollars. They're needing 50,000, 100,000, and people are scrambling and they don't know where to go or what to do. So, Shamisha, go through and let's give them the top 7 things that they should be asking for if they find themselves delinquent on their payments.
So forbearance is one of them. A
Okay.
partial claim.
All right.
They can also request to put it in the principal. I highly don't suggest it, but bankruptcy is an option. I mean, if it's just a situation to where they just need debt relief in several different areas. You got deed in lieu, short sales. If they have equity, a regular sale may be an option, in which most people do in this market. Um, they can rent the property if they had other properties, or that property that's in foreclosure is not their primary residence. Um, I, that should be the trial period, the 3 month trial period
We'll
is another.
hop into that, but let's talk about the options that you just gave them,
Mhm.
right? Let's explain to them what exactly is a forbearance.
It's when the lender temporarily pauses or reduces the mortgage payment over a specific period of time.
Okay, so it kind of works like your student loans. So you can request them to do a forbearance. That's where you get to skip some payments, but you need to understand the terms of the forbearance, because a lot of people can get themselves into more issues with the forbearance. So you want to know, if they allow you to skip those payments, are they going to make you 90, 60 days delinquent because you skip those payments, or are they actually going to let you skip those payments and they're not going to show up as being due? So that you need to know that when you're asking for the forbearance, ask what terms are they giving you that forbearance under. What else? And then the next one was that you
A
described,
partial, I'm sorry, a partial claim.
a partial claim, and explain to them the partial claim.
It's a zero interest loan, pretty much a lien that they would provide, that would kind of cover the outstanding balance. But in the event that you sell or refinance, that amount will need to be paid.
Okay, so for an example, if a partial claim is where you say you owe $10,000 in delinquent payments, so instead of them making you pay the $10,000, they take that $10,000, they set it over to the side, and then they just tell you, hey, once you either get to the end of this loan, refinance, or sell, we're going to need that money. But it kind of gives people a fresh start. So that way, if you had a short-term hardship, maybe you was out for surgery or something like that, then you can go ahead and just have that put over to the side, and you won't have it due. That's very common with FHA mortgages, government-backed mortgages. You'll see that they'll offer you a partial claim. Then we've done the forbearance, we've done the partial claim. What's next?
To put it in the principal.
To put it back in the principal. That is called the partial claim. I think Stephanie was asking what's the partial. The partial claim is when they set it over to the side and they allow you to get a fresh start and just start making the payments. And the only time they're due is if you sell, refinance the property. And then what did you just say now, Shabisha? I'm sorry.
The option to put it into the principal.
Then you have the option to put all your past due back into the principal. So now if you owed $150,000 on your mortgage, you got $20,000 that you're past due, you can afford your mortgage, but you just can't come up with the $20,000. Ask them to put it back into the principal, where they're just stretching out your loan term, where you would have had your house paid off in 2030. Now you might have to 2035 to actually pay that mortgage off, and it is just put on the back end. And now you just start back making that same payment fresh. We got another question here as well. It says, isn't a loan modification if you put it back into the principal? These are all loan modifications. A loan modification, some people get it confused. Anytime you modify the terms of the original agreement, that is a loan modification. So you have a lot of different options as far as the actual loan modification. Anytime you modify the terms, just remember that is a loan modification. Also, Shamisha, you want to expand on putting it back into the principal of some of the other things that happen when they put it back into the principal?
It may not be to where they have interest or other fees if it's put back into the principal.
Right. So it'll still have interest, but it's not like they charging you a different interest rate from it's not charging you a different interest rate from what you already have. So they just put it in the back end and they leaving your interest rate the same. But on some loan modifications, say you got $80,000-$90,000, well, they don't want to wait forever for that. So they may even have to stretch your terms and kind of like and this is just a loan modification, but it kind of makes you feel like a refinance, where they're going to take that whole amount, put it on the back end, but now they got to change your term to, say, a 40-year mortgage instead of a 30-year mortgage. And you kind of like starting all over again, but it gives you a fresh start. And then it says, how can you stop foreclosure? Asking your mortgage company about some of these, the forbearance, putting it back in the principal, all those kind of things. When you do that, that is going to stop the foreclosure process, because it means that you have worked something out with the bank in order for them not to foreclose. The bank cannot afford to take your house back. They don't want your house back. They make money from payments. They make money off of the interest that they charge you for the loan. They do not want your house back. They're not in the business of taking your house back. So no matter what people tell you, the bank wants to work with you, but you can't crawl up under a rock and hide your head and don't talk to them. This scary nightmare is not going to end unless you take it by the bullhorns and take control. We have another question. Can any of these modifications change your interest rate? Yes. Sometimes if you put 100,000 back into the principal, they may have to lower the interest rate, because if your interest rate is say 7 or 8%, then they have to lower the rate in order to keep the payment affordable. And that's where they change the terms. They might have to do it as a 40-year mortgage instead of a 30-year mortgage to adjust the terms to make the payments work for your budget. Then we have another. If you lose your home because of a foreclosure, can you buy another house in 3 years? Yes, you can buy another house in 3 years, provided that you have credit and different things, and there is no deficiency judgment that they're holding against you. But a lot of banks are not going after the deficiency. A lot of the banks are waiving the deficiency. So when you see waive deficiency, that means that they are not coming after you. If they sell the house at the auction for $300,000, you owe them $400,000. They're not coming after you for the difference. The bank does not want your house back. Is there anything you want to add, Shamisha? Oh, thank you, Stephanie. And thank you for engaging and kind of helping us move the conversation along and provide more insight so that we can kind of fill in the blanks, so that people that are kind of shy and may not want to ask questions, you're asking those questions on their behalf. And I really appreciate you doing that.
And thank you as well. No, anything to add at this time.
Okay. So once you do the loan modification, you got the principal where you're putting it back into the principal. You got your forbearance. Let's go into some of the other ones. Now on bankruptcy, what were you saying about bankruptcy, Shamisha?
It's a legal process where an individual is unable to pay debt, so they're asking for relief from the creditors by discharging debt and restructuring obligations.
And it depends on what chapter bankruptcy you're filing. So now they have a bankruptcy simulator that they put people in to see if they qualify or not. But sometimes, and we are not bankruptcy attorneys, so we don't give legal advice, but we would, if you want to explore that as one of your options, you can. But I can give you the statistics that about 95% of people who file bankruptcy are not successful, and they oftentimes end up losing their house because the bankruptcy does not work out for them. But does it prolong the inevitable? Yes. Can it stop a foreclosure? You got a foreclosure on Monday. Can you file bankruptcy? If the attorney will file it on your behalf, you can stop it Monday morning. I've seen it happen more than once. But it just depends on the type of bankruptcy you're trying to file to deal with it, because some bankruptcies restructure your debt and some just go ahead and wipe everything out. What else did you have, Shamisha?
Deed in lieu.
Deed in lieu. You want to tell us a little bit about deed in lieu?
Deed in lieu is when the homeowner voluntarily gives the property back to the bank in exchange for not having the obligation to pay.
Okay, so sometimes the bank, you can do a deed in lieu. So that means when you just sign the property back over to the bank. Why would anybody want to do that? Well, so that people do that because they know they can't afford it. They don't want the hassle of continuing to pay the payment. So rather than get a foreclosure, they sign it back over to the bank. It's a win-win for both parties because it's relieving you of the debt, but at the same time, the bank is able to get the property back. And a lot of times, they will even give you an incentive. The incentive is called cash for keys, and you'll see it notated as CFK, and it's cash for keys. And I've seen people get $25,000 plus for doing it because the bank doesn't have to wait the whole time. They don't have to spend all the legal fees to get you out. They don't have to They don't have to spend the legal fees to get you out. They don't have to wait months to get you out. Also, they don't have to worry about you damaging the property and they got more repairs or the property's value has gone down significantly, because some people get emotional about foreclosures and they actually go through and damage the property. So the bank has to take the property back in whatever condition it is at the time of the foreclosure. So you're actually helping them get possession of the property early. So that's why they give you incentive money to help you relocate. But they're not going to give you the money before you sign the deed. They're not going to give you the money before you actually get out of the property if you're in the property. They want you to have done all that so that way they can directly get possession of the property. Another great question. In a deed in lieu done directly with the bank or through a realtor, you would do that with your bank, or sometimes people will get an agent. And like we do this as a courtesy, that somebody to help them navigate or walk them through the process of doing and knowing what questions to ask the bank. But generally, it's done from the client to the bank directly, but you don't have to go through an agent unless you just want somebody, you have a good relationship with somebody. Okay, we got another good question. If you're facing foreclosure, can you sell to a family member? Shamisha, you want to answer that one?
I would say yes.
Yes. Now, depending on the situation, if it's a regular sale, yes, you can sell it to your family member because it's a regular sale. Now, but when you get into a short sale, a lot of your bigger banks are going to have you to sign an addendum called an arm's length addendum. That addendum says you don't have a relationship with that person, because they don't want you to do a short sale. Say, for example, you owe $300,000, you short sell it for $200,000 and you sell it to your cousin. They don't want you doing that, because then now you got $100,000 off a debt that you owed them and the bank took a loss on it. So if it's a regular sale, yes. If it's a short sale, you got to make sure that it's not against the bank rules for you to do that. But I'm going to tell you that if you get ready to do a short sale, make sure you're reading all of the documents, because you have to read all the documents, because a lot of those documents, there is going to be an arm length affidavit. And if you sign that affidavit and you still sell it to a family member, you could be cited or charged with mortgage fraud. Did you want to add anything to that, Shamisha?
No, I think you explained it very well.
Okay. Is it less of a credit penalty with a deed in lieu? Yes, depending on where you are with the process, because if you don't hit 90 plus days on the mortgage, it's already tanked your credit. But a lot of people can do these things if they're in imminent danger of default, because you can do, and all of these solutions are not only just loan modifications, but loss mitigation. That's the department you're going to talk to when you contact the mortgage company. You're going to ask them for the loss mitigation department. Their job is to mitigate the loss. That's why they have a whole department set up for that. So if you do it when you're in imminent danger of default, that means that you know that you getting a divorce, your husband moving out next month, and you're not going to be able to make the payments. That is in imminent danger of default, because you haven't defaulted yet, but you know that you're not going to be able to keep these payments up. Then that's when you can ask them about the deed in lieu. But you want to do it, but is it going to report as a foreclosure? No. And you may want to ask the mortgage company, if I do this deed in lieu, how are you going to report it on my credit report? Because now they know that people doing the last mortgage process, that a lot of people was doing a lot of fraud, and a lot of people doing a lot of short sales so they could get their mortgage down and pay less for a house. So they started reporting to the credit bureaus less than what's owed or putting a note on your credit report. So it's very important that you ask your mortgage company, if I do the deed in lieu, how will it be reported? Yes, as a courtesy, we do that just because we know that people are going through a rough time. And you don't have to make money and capitalize everything. When you put people first, the money always follows. So can we do everything for free? No, because it's the way we do a living. But can we lead you and guide you on some things that's not really going to be time consuming? Yes, that's not an issue at all. The next question we have, can you assume a loan on a home in foreclosure? Yes, you can. There are a lot of assumable loans that you can go through the mortgage company and do an assumption while it's in foreclosure and see what the bank will work out. What else would you want to add something, Shamisha?
I think if they do a loan assumption, it would all depend on the person's balance, the actual seller's balance, to see if it's going to benefit the buyer.
Right, because if they don't have any equity, and if you're going to be upside down, it may not be in your best interest to assume the loan. But there's a lot of factors that go into it. What if they've been paying on the mortgage for 20 years and there's only 10 years left? Then you may want to assume, because now you only got 10 years left to pay. Or you may want to assume a mortgage, say now the rates are 8%, they got a 2.5% interest rate, even though it might be up a little bit and they've already paid on 8 years. Hey, you might want to assume it, but you got to do your numbers. You got to do your numbers to see, is it worth it for me to assume this mortgage at 2.5% with only 22 years left to pay? So you got to consider your numbers and consider the scenario, because it's not a cut and dry yes or no answer if you should do it or why you should do it. You got to look at the whole thing to know, is it in your best interest to do that, or do you need the person to short sell it? So then that way you get a lower principal, even though you may have to take a higher interest rate. Did you want to add anything else, Shamisha?
No, I think you did very well.
Okay, let's talk about one more thing that you did mention before, was the streamline refinance. You want to tell them a little bit about that?
Are you referring to when they refinance, but they don't take any cash out?
Right. When you do a streamline refinance, that means that the bank is, even if you're underwater, say that your house is, you owe $300,000, but the house is only worth $200,000, but you haven't missed any payments. You can ask your mortgage company, and they mostly do it with government-backed loans such as VA loans, FHA loans. You can ask for a streamlined refinance where they just look at your financials, but a lot of times they're going to make sure that you have been current for 12 months for the streamlined refinance. So a lot of people just go to a mortgage person and say, oh, I want to refinance my house. And they tell you, oh, well, your house is underwater. It's not going to appraise for what you owe on it. You can go and ask your current mortgage company for a streamlined finance. Now we have another one. Just for advice, what if you was the only child, adult age, and say a parent passes away and is behind on the mortgage? The adult child has no desires to be in the home. What would be best to do?
I wonder if the adult child is the person who is going to inherit this property.
Okay. Because they may have siblings. And if the parent didn't have wait a say they are the only child. She said that the person is the only child, but we got to know, is there a spouse involved? Mm-hmm. Right? Because that would be the only person, because that would be your immediate family. And if there was a will that was left or trust that was left, And if they are behind on the mortgage, then you as the estate can represent the estate, open up the probate and represent the estate, and they can do a loan modification. I've seen loan modifications pass with an inherited property because, again, the bank does not want the property back. They are not in the business of owning houses, selling them, anything like that, because guess what? If the bank gets more than you owe them, they've got to cut you a check back. So for them to go through all that hassle, they don't want to do that. They do not want the house. They want money. That's how banks function. That's how they make money. So in this case, if the house is in foreclosure, these same options that we're going through, you want to call the mortgage company and talk to them about it. And the child could either move into the house, or they could rent the house and make the property an investment property. Or they could refinance and take the equity out, or just refinance and get it in their name. But the mortgage company just wants the payments. So if they can afford to do it, I would definitely keep the house, because right now this is going to be a rental market. It's going to be hard. They're pulling home ownership away from people. So this is an opportunity for that person to either build their portfolio or to actually have own their first house. So I would highly encourage them to do that. Now, if there is a reverse mortgage on the property, that's a totally different story, because there's an acceleration clause in the reverse mortgage that some elderly people get, where the mortgage company is paying them every month, and when the person dies, they can take the property. Well, if this parent has a reverse mortgage, then you would need to get another loan so that you can pay off the reverse mortgage, pay what you owe them, and keep the house. A lot of people get confused and get mixed up and messed up because they think that because it was a reverse mortgage that it automatically reverts back to the mortgage company, and that's not true. If you pay them what you owe them, you can keep the house. What else you got, Shamisha?
Short sale.
Short sale. Tell us a little bit about the short sale.
It's when you sell your property for less than the outstanding balance upon the lender's approval.
Okay. So, short sale is when you owe $300,000, you get an appraisal. The appraisal says it's only worth $200,000. You sell it to somebody for the $200,000 because they know you can't get the $300,000. And sometimes the bank will pay you. In an FHA, they do have where they give you $1,000 for relocation assistance, and then the mortgage servicer actually can give you additional funds for doing the short sale as an incentive. So a lot of these banks will give you an incentive money because, like I said, you are doing what they would have to do. You're doing it faster, so it's saving them money. They don't have to spend the legal fees, wait months to get possession of the property. They know that you're selling the property in its best condition, and you're not going in and just maliciously damaging the property. So a lot of times they will give you an incentive for doing the short sale so that you can have relocation money. But again, they're not going to give you the relocation money until you're completely out of the property and you have 100% fulfilled your obligations with them. Okay, so it says no desire to be in the home. Or you can contact so that you can contact I'm sorry, it was kind of like the words was tiny, where I see that you said the child has no desire to be in the home. Then we do buy houses cash. You can talk to us and we can probably get you a cash offer, get some cash, or get the person some cash, not necessarily you, but whoever the situation is, and they can get some cash to sell the property once they get possession of the property or in control of the deed. So you could definitely sell it, get the money. Don't let it go into foreclosure. And a lot of real estate agents will do what they call a CMA, which is a free competitive market analysis, so that you can see how much do I owe on the property versus how much the property is worth. Or I don't, if it needs repairs, I don't want to do anything. And that's what a lot of people that says we buy houses, that's what they do. And they take the property as is. Um, does the seller have to pay the difference on the short sale? Generally not. Could they ask you for a deficiency? Yes, but a lot of times they are not coming after you for the difference just because you are doing what they would have to do. Also, they're going to send someone out. They're not going to just say, okay, yeah, you got a contract for $200,000. We're going to sell the house for $200,000. They are going to send out either a real estate agent to do a BPO, which is a broker price opinion, or they're going to send an appraiser out to do an appraisal to verify that the house is only worth what your contract is for, what you're getting the money. They are going to verify that to make sure that, hey, should we proceed with foreclosure, or do we need to take this offer because they've gotten the best offer? So they're not going to just take anything that you send to the bank. They are going to send a third party out to get the value on the property, so that they will know that they are taking the best offer possible. And if they don't take what you are offering, they'll tell you, well, we need XYZ, or the appraisal came back at this amount and we need this amount of money. And a lot of times they won't even ask for the whole 100% of the appraisal. They'll say, okay, I had one just last week. It appraised for 310. The bank said within the first 30 days, we'll take 88% of the value. So the net needed to equal 88% of the value. Anything over that, they were happy with. So they don't even need 100%, especially when they know that the mortgage person is already in default and they've already determined the hardship. Okay, what were you going to say, Shamisha?
And I had a question for you too as well. Do you remember back maybe 10 years ago, we may have did quite a bit of short sales?
Yes, when we
go ahead.
I was just going to say, back when we had the last mortgage crisis, so we've been around a long time. What were you going to say about it?
Do you see that kind of coming back in full circle again?
Yes, and they're saying that it might even be worse this time around just because of COVID. People took a break from paying their mortgage just because of COVID, not because they needed to, but just because they wanted to and they could. And their friends told them, hey, you can take advantage of this and skip your payments. And now the bank is like, pay up. And people don't realize, pay me now or pay me later. And later has come. And now people can't pay up. So they are just in limbo right now. So yes, you're going to see a lot of that. We're going to go into the next part about your package. When you are applying, we kind of went over the things that you can ask for. Oh, I forgot one more thing. You can rent the property. It's your property until it hits the courthouse steps on auction day. That property belongs to you. You can do whatever you want to. So if you want to put a tenant in there, you need to let your tenant know if you're not going to make the payments, you're going to take the rent. So that way they can move in time. But there are people, but the mortgage payment, the mortgage company can request the rental payments come to them. But that renting the property sometimes has gotten people back on track, where you are in a financial situation, you're out of work, you can't make the mortgage payment, but the house payment is low enough for me to rent the house out, make the mortgage payment, do a modification or whatever. They make the payments until I'm able to get a better job, and then I go back to my house and stop renting the house. So sometimes renting your house can be a temporary fix, or now with Airbnb and renting rooms and communal living, people can use that to generate funds so that they can have some extra disposable income to make that mortgage payment. So you can consider Airbnb, or you can consider as a full long-term rental. You move out of the house, rent it, but are you taking a chance when you rent it? Yes. If your renter does not pay and you can't get your renter out of there, you are taking a chance. But then sometimes, things do work out for people and they are able to. I've seen where people have rented their house for a year. They went and lived with their parents or whoever, saved up some money, got a better job, and after that year's lease was up, they were able to go back to their house and it was a success for them. So renting your house out isn't always a bad option. But we do want to get into the packages, because the bank isn't going to just do all this stuff, give you a forbearance, put it in the principal, give you a partial claim. They're not going to do all that stuff without you submitting a hardship. Your hardship package is going to consist of your financials, your tax returns, which is your pay. When I say financials, I mean your pay stubs, your budget, and any other documents that they need along with your hardship. Your hardship, you can DM me if you want to, and I have some hardship templates, and you just go back and insert your information and put what your situation is, because a lot of people have a hard time with formatting a letter. So they are going to ask you, you want to document your hardship, tell them why you can't make your payments or why you didn't make your payments. If your hardship is over, how you plan to move forward. You want to be detailing that, because they do read those hardship letters. Also, they give you a budget form. That budget form says, what are your bills? Well, a lot of people like to go in and say, oh, if I put a big negative, these people are going to help me. That's not how that budget form works. If you go in and you have, or you inflate your bills and you're not giving an accurate picture, that if you have $1,000 negative and you say that's going to prove to them that I need help, no, they're going to say a lot of times, and I'm just saying a lot of times, not always, because there's an exception to every rule. A lot of times they're going to say you just cannot afford this house and you're not going to ever be able to make these payments, so there's no real reason to work with you. So you got to be very careful. They're looking for, a lot of times on a lot of these loans that I've talked with loss mitigators, they are looking for a very thin surplus. And when I say surplus, that means that after everything is paid, your bills are paid, they want you to have a small cushion, a couple $100 left over, to say that if we were to give you this modification or put you on a new plan, that you're going to be successful and we're not setting you up for failure. A lot of people, that's why I said that budget plan is very, very important, that you fill out that budget sheet correctly and not just try to inflate a bunch of bills. So you need your hardship, you need your hardship letter, your budget letter, you need your pay stubs. Keep your pay stubs updated with them. You're going to need 2 months of bank statements, because they want to know that you haven't hit the lottery and now you got this windfall of money and you just want to do a short sale, or you just don't want to pay them. If they see that you have money, they're going to want that money so that you can pay them. Are they going to require that you go into your 401k and take money out? No, because your 401k is for retirement, not for you to use now. But can you use your 401k as a part of your hardship to get a modification? Yes, but is that going to be a bearing? No. So once you have those documents and any disclosures that they ask you to do, package it all at one time. Do not send it in bits and pieces, because you have to think about, if they got to piecemeal your file together, they throwing it to the side versus somebody that has a full package with everything together and they can go through it and make a decision. But if you got, one day you faxing in the tax returns, another day you faxing in pay stubs, and they got to figure out, and they getting a million faxes in, they're not looking through all that stuff. They're just going to shred your stuff and tell you denied. and they're not going to really go through it. So you want to make sure that when you do your package, you stack it in the order of the checklist that they have given you. Make sure that everything is there that they have given you. Make sure that your loan number is on every page, and you want to be consistent as to where you put that loan number. You might want to put it on the bottom right corner of every page. If that's the case, every page should have that loan number with your last name at the bottom of every page. Or if you're going to put it at the top, right, every single page. Make sure you can make labels, or you can sit there and handwrite it on every single page. So that way they can keep your package together and they know that you're serious about what you're doing. So you need to make sure that that package is together. Don't send in bits and pieces. Once a month, when you get your new pay stubs, get your new bank statements, then you want to send all that back in together. They're going to ask you for a 4506T because they want to know that if you submitted tax returns to them, that those are the same tax returns you gave to the government. So they are going to have you a lot of times sign off on a 4506T, which allows them to get a transfer from the government to make sure that what you gave them is accurate and what you turned into the government. So that's what they're doing, is double checking behind you. So make sure that when you send the package in to be evaluated, that you put everything together. What else do we have, Shamisha?
The 3-month trial period.
The 3-month trial period. A lot of times when you're going through this process, they're going to give you a 3-month trial period. That 3-month trial period does not guarantee that that's going to be your new payment, because a lot of times on those 3-month trial periods, they are lower than the actual payment. So don't just assume and go party and say, oh, now my $1,800 a month mortgage is $800. They are giving you the lower payment while they evaluate your records and to see how you do. Also, they're going through your financials during that time and they're collecting some money. So don't assume because you got a trial period that you automatically approve that's your new loan, that's your new payment amount. A lot of times they can come back after that trial period and say, hey, we wanted the full payments. Now you got to pay up $3,000 or $4,000. During that trial period, even though you may be sending them a lesser amount, be prepared to come up with the difference between what your regular payment was and that modification. And do not, I cannot stress this enough, do not assume that you approve. All they doing is using that 90-day window of time to evaluate what you've sent to them to see what they're going to be able to do to assist you. Okay. What else you got, Shamisha?
Last but not least, for the ones who just absolutely are completely done with the property, just a traditional real estate sale and take the money and run.
Okay. And let's just add one more thing, because people get discouraged in this process. They're going to say, they didn't get this, they didn't get that. Do not get discouraged. Keep your head in the game. Keep motivation in the game. That's why you want to have a package, scan it in. So then that way, if they say fax it, you can just click a button and fax it. If they say email it, click a button and email it. And make sure that if you're emailing documents, you got your last name, your address, and your loan number, so they can properly identify the package. Also, you want to make sure that you keep those things updated. Don't get frustrated. Don't get an attitude with the people because you are in limbo or you're on an emotional roller coaster. Stay professional at all times with these people because they're dealing with your documents and they're handling your file. Make sure that you might want to get a notebook and copy down. Every time you call in, some questions that you need to ask is, do I have a sale date? The sale date is the auction date. You want to ask them that all the time because the sale date, if there is an auction date, that means that's your drop dead date to be that they're going to be done with the property. As long as you don't have a sale date, you pretty much in the driver's seat. If your package is still being reviewed and you have a sale date assigned to your house, escalate it or ask for a postponement of sale. They can do that. Ask for the postponement of sale, escalate if you have to, speak to a supervisor. If you're not getting anywhere with your negotiator, usually they have a negotiator or a loss mitigator assigned to your file. Do that. Do not bug them, but do have consistent and persistent follow up when you're asking for these modifications. Another big thing that I'm seeing is denial letters. Once you get denied, or if you are denied for your modification, don't just automatically throw your hands up and say, oh, I'm out of options. Call us. We'll talk to you. Also, you want to read that denial letter. That denial letter is going to tell you why you were denied. It could be something as simple as we searched the title and your name isn't the same. You bought the house before you got married. You changed your name. Now you're sending all these documents with your married last name, and the house is in your maiden name. That's an easy fix. Send them a copy of your marriage certificate to say you are one and the same person. But if you just go and get all emotional and don't read the letter and say, oh, you just lost and you could have won. So read the denial letter, know why they denied you so that you can see what you have to fix to get it corrected, to get what you need to get. Because sometimes they are denying people for very minor things that can be fixed. But if you don't read the denial letter and get the denial overturned, that could be you losing your house or staying in your house. Any other questions? And then, like Shamisha said, you can cash in by doing a regular sale and taking the difference and running. Or some people are having enough equity right now, they could buy something else cash and live with no mortgage. So I would suggest you talk with a professional and go from there. Anything else you want to add, Shamisha?
That selling their home shouldn't be their first priority. That, like you said before, give us a call, let us help you, or if you have a family member that needs that assistance, please let us know.
Right. Even share this video with them. And like I said, a lot of the services that we provide can be free, and it's just a lot of guidance because a lot of people are living with this nightmare and they don't really know who to talk to and how to help. And no, they're not going to just come and lock your house and throw you out on the street. It doesn't work like that. There's a lot of hoops that the government has in place that assures that they don't just lock you out of your house and throw your stuff on the street. Even though people like to tell people about that nightmare, those people have had plenty of opportunities to resolve their situation, but either it didn't work out or they opted not to. So don't be afraid to call your mortgage company, talk to your mortgage company. They do not, I cannot emphasize it enough, they do not want your house back. The bank can't afford to take your house back. They can't own all these houses because they're making mortgage payments on your money. They have borrowed the money at a lower rate and lended it to you at a higher rate. So even when you're not paying them, they have to pay somebody because they borrowed the money from somebody. Any other questions or anything anybody want to add to this? But I want to thank all these ladies for joining tonight and asking some really good questions to kind of help move the conversation forward. Anything else you want to say or add, Shamisha?
You asked me earlier the reasoning for doing this live. And it's kind of to make people aware that there are trusted professionals that they can have a confidential conversation with, because sometimes this is a touchy subject for a lot of people, and we just want to make people aware of that.
Okay. Yes. And so We're here to help. Follow Shamisha Adams. Um, her name is on the screen, and her last name is Adams. And like she said, we're here to help you. Everything that you talk to us about is confidential. We don't have any benefit to go out and run out and tell your business. And a lot of it is that it's going to be on public record. So people are going to be calling you, texting you about your situation, because the notice of default, once you are in South Carolina 3 months behind, there's going to be a less pendants that's going to be filed on the public records, and people are working those lists. People are calling those people. So always just reach out, get some good advice. And there's a lot of people out here running scams. So if you do decide to work with somebody or talk to somebody else, get the background on them. Know who you're dealing with. Know who you're talking to, because now deeds are a very big scam that's going on right now. You don't want to just sign your house over, or somebody tell you and you just fully trust them. You want to do your homework on them and find out who you're dealing with, and how successful have they been. Do your research, find out the back page on these people, because like I said, there are a lot of scams going on right now with deeds. And then even if it goes to the courthouse steps, you may want to check to see if the house sold for more than you owed the bank, and find out what procedure you need to follow in order to get the difference back. Because anything that the bank makes above what you owe them, you are entitled to it. But in South Carolina, you have a small window of time to request those funds. So you want to make sure you're staying on top of things. And sometimes, you might be, just experiencing a lot of depression, a lot of anxiety, and just, being scared and alone. And a lot of people, just want the nightmare to go away, but you got to grab it by the bull horns and take advantage. Oh, thank you so much today. She said thank you both for this information. Awesome.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, and thank you all for tuning in.